In this video, I'm going to discuss one of the most common errors I see people making, which causes them to miss putts low, which causes them to underread the break any putt could have. Now, it relates to how they view and see the apex. So what I've done here, I've got putt view and I've laid down some visuals on a 13-foot putt. It's a 2% slope on a 12-stimp green. Now, I've placed the aim line for the putt, so this is the point that we would need to start the ball at in order for it to go in. And I've also then placed the trajectory of the ball, so the path that the ball would take. I've placed the ball along the baseline, so that's the straight line from the ball to the hole. And that would represent that ball would represent the baseline at 2/3 of the way down the hole. These alignment sticks I've used to separate the putt into thirds. So this is the end of your first third, the end of your second third where that ball is, and obviously this is the final third to the hole. So the ball represents the baseline at the end of the middle third, and we know that there's a very distinct relationship between the baseline, the trajectory of the ball, and the aim line at 2/3 of the length of the putt. Now, however, a lot of people don't use that or don't understand that reference. If they did, they wouldn't make this mistake, which I'm going to explain. Now, a lot of people will look at a putt and they'll look to see the highest point the ball would travel over, and that's the apex. So the apex would be the highest point of that trajectory relative to this baseline. Now, this orange alignment stick represents the apex of this putt. Now, a lot of people will look at that apex, the highest point, and then they'll even actually aim at that apex. And one of the reasons being is that people really don't appreciate how much that ball breaks in the early stages. And a lot of that, I think, comes because when they strike the putt, the ball's on its journey, and before they get a chance to see it, it's actually taken that break. So they don't have a visual for how much the ball would break. But if we look at putt view, we can see how much that ball's broken before it gets to the apex of the putt. So if you're aiming at the apex, okay, and then you hit the putt, you can see how much that ball is going to be below the apex by the time it reaches where the apex should be. Ball's going to then work more down the slope, and it's a low miss. So the apex is never a point that you would aim at, okay? You've always got to aim higher than the apex. But it's very difficult to use the apex in order to give us a really accurate reference. The only part of the putt where there's a very strong relationship across all different putt types is the 2/3 reference. So where that ball would pass through at 2/3, only then can we really consistently predict the aim line. So, for example, the distance of where the ball passes relative to the baseline, we could always double that distance to get our aim line. So, apex really doesn't give us great information from which we can then build the rest of the putt. For me, the 2/3 reference gives us I think better information for us to consistently apply across different putt types to give us an accurate representation of the aim line and the trajectory. If you're making the mistake of aiming at the apex, you're certainly going to underread putts. But also, even visualizing where the apex is, it can be then difficult to predict where you aim based on that, understanding that point alone. So, apex aiming, obviously that's always going to give you an underread. 2/3 point, doubling that reference, is going to give you a more accurate representation of the break. Let me know your thoughts and comments below.